in here. Tomorrow, David Rudin will drive the Aaron's car in the big race. Today, they're giving away laps.
Leaves us with 33 trucks on the lead lap right now.
Coming up on lap 18, Colin Brown, Eric Almirola, Todd Bodine, Ron Hornaday bring the field back to the green flag.
Now that's a textbook start there for Colin Brown. Look right on his bumper is a truck of Almirola. You know, he didn't put a gap on Eric, so Eric couldn't get a big head of momentum after him. He sustained that start. He held him off for the critical moment, and now he's going to stay pinned to that white line, yellow line, and try to lead this race.
And this is when Colin right now is the most vulnerable. If Eric had any momentum at all, he has the 30 of Todd Bodine behind him. He may have chose to pull out, but looks like he's very content to ride behind that 6 truck. Obviously, he knows that truck is extremely strong.
Yeah, he won the pole by close to a half a second. He was way faster than the field had qualified, and right now he just pulled him along in a nice straight line. I guarantee you those first 8 or 10 guys are pretty content right now. Doesn't look like it in that view. Look like they're getting a little antsy, but they should be pretty content right now just to ride, log some laps. Now you get back around 10th or 12th, though, that's when you might see some guys try to form up and come on the outside and make a run toward the front.
And that's what Eric Almirola looks like he's doing right now, logging laps right behind that 6 of Colin Brown. Is that what he's doing, Adam?
You guys have hit the nail squarely on the head. Under that last caution, Eric Almirola came over the radio and said, "I'm just riding. No problems at all with the truck." So that is very good. And now I've been passed a note. They have a problem with the oil and water temperatures running low. They have some tape ready to put on the grill when they come back down pit road. So that's something to watch as far as Eric Almirola is concerned. When you talk about Colin Brown, he loves being out front, but he's been there before. He ran an ARCA race here a couple of years ago, and of course the truck race a year ago. In both of those events, he led at the white flag, but didn't win the race. He knows he's got a long way to
go. Another thing to consider, guys, is as those trucks ride in line like that, second, third, fourth, somebody back through there might have an overheating problem. They can't just sit there and ride in line even though they're content. They might have to get out of line, get some air to their grill, and they're not just going to pull out of line and fall back. They're going to make sure they try to, when they do pull out of line, they drive toward the front.
They're only going to pull out a half a truck length maybe, just to get a little bit of air in one side of that grill, because they do not want to give up this spot they have right now in line.
It almost sounded surprising to me that somebody would be running too cool. Having to add tape to try to get the oil temperature to come up a little bit doesn't sound normal.
That's pretty normal, especially on a cold day. The temperature's a little bit colder today than it was yesterday. So calculating exactly how much tape you run on the grill of your truck is something these crew chiefs are very serious about. They try to think that they can do it perfectly, and sometimes they miss.
Let's keep an eye on this outside line. Now Kyle Busch is pretty racy. He's got Johnny Sauter with him. Now he has some more help. Some other guys pull out in the outside line.
A lot of communication from spotters to drivers, letting them know who's moving and where. How about the 14 of Rick Crawford, Ray?
Well, Rick, he just missed his opportunity. He came on the radio and said, "Let me know if that outside line starts to make a go." He was at the very tail of the front group in about 11th, and just as the spotter said, "Get ready," that group came so fast and went by Crawford, he wasn't able to join the pack. When that outside line gets ready to go, they form up in a hurry, and watch them. They're going to be coming on that outside.
Well, they made a little bit of progress, but it almost seems as though that progress has stalled out right now. Look like now Johnny Sauter looked for an instant like he may pull out to go to the outside of Kyle Busch. He did do that.
He does. He wasn't liking the progress he and Kyle were making. Kyle's truck is still hitting the ground. We saw some sparks flying out from under the 51 truck, so that might have not made him as fast as Johnny hoped he would be. But he can't complete the pass. They are 3 wide, though.
Yeah, there's Johnny Sauter leading that pack on the very outside. Has Stacy Compton, Timothy Peters right behind him.
There was so much momentum in that 17 truck of Timothy Peters until he got right up to the back of the 60 of Stacy Compton, and then that momentum died, and now we see the 17 actually dropping back a bit.
And Kyle's making some progress. He's up beside Terry Cook, it looks like, right now. Or is that Crawford?
Rick Crawford.
Rick Crawford, 14 truck. Right behind J.R. Fitzpatrick, who's doing a nice job right now running in the top 10 in that 29 truck.
And we see right behind Rick Crawford's truck the 8 of Dennis Setzer, who we normally talk about being a short track racer, but holding his own right here at the biggest track on the circuit.
Man, I've been in those, obviously, for the last 25 years, Rick. I've been out there in the middle of all that on Sunday afternoon. And despite the fact that it looks relatively calm down on that inside, Look at Pappas jumping around trying to figure out what he wants to do. I don't think he quite knows yet. He's trying to learn. Skinner's going to join that outside line to try to, what I'm saying, Phil, despite the fact that it looks calm down there running third or fourth, you're not. You're tense as ever because you don't know if these guys are going to stay in line. You're trying to watch that outside group to see if they're going to make any progress. Do you need to jump up there and get in line with them? What to do? So every second there's a decision to be made.
And we talk about it a lot, but I cannot emphasize enough that those drivers right now are looking in the mirror as much as they're looking out the windshield, and that includes the 6 of Colin Brown, who's leading this race.
Right up your ass, still inside, still lining.
That outside is now driven up another spot or two. They're gaining on it. You know, and Phil, if they can ever inch their way all the way to the front, I think at that point there isn't really an advantage to one lane or the other. Right now, the reason why that inside line is able to hold them off is because there's no arrow drafting the side of the 6 truck of Colin Brown. He's got clean air in front of him and beside him, and he's getting a push from behind. It's a perfect world right now for Colin Brown, but Kyle Busch and Mike Skinner, it looks like, are going to eventually get there.
We're beginning to see some momentum on the outside line. In practice, we hear drivers talk a little bit about, I run better in front of this truck. Is that the case right now with Mike Skinner in front of Kyle Busch?
Well, Mike Skinner did the same thing earlier. He got in line in front of the outside pack when it got to him. He likes his truck up there. He thinks he can pull that outer line to the front. And what he also likes right now is Kyle Busch being behind him because Kyle knows how to bump draft. Kyle can put his bumper to Mike's. Mike's confident that Kyle's not going to wreck him, and he's going to push him as good as possible. And right now they're coming to the lead.
Here comes that outside line. Adam Alexander.
Kyle Busch just said, I think I'm the only one in this outside lane that knows how to push. Jeff Dickerson, the spotter, trying to help him with that. And now Kyle going to get a little help, it looks like, from behind. Outside lane gets the advantage. Mike Skinner appears to have the point.
And now when the outside line comes up like it does, then the guys on the inside aren't going to be quite as patient as they have been. Look at Todd. He's thinking about going up through the middle.
Across the stripe, it was Colin Brown that was out front, but Mike Skinner was just 61 1/1000ths of a second behind him in that outside line.
Johnny Sutter jumps to the outside, actually gets out of that line.
That might be a case there, Phil, where he just got too much water temperature. It might have gotten a little hot. He said, I'm going to have to take a break from this action, guys, and get my water temperature down.
He knows we have 69 laps left. Plenty of time. He can get to the pit road there, take some more tape off.
Look at our buddy Mario Goslin in his monkey tire truck.
My Tire Monkey. MyTireMonkey.com truck. And what a great day it is for Mario Goslin. Obviously, having the sponsor come on board and letting him know that he's going to be running a complete season in 2010. He wants to be competitive and see if he can run for a championship next year.
I'm telling you, I'm watching Colin Brown. That truck's dancing around a little bit.
Well, it's because of the fact that the outside line has gotten there. It's slowed the inside line down. Now they're getting a lot of bump drafting. A lot of trucks are being able to push right up from behind and make trucks unstable. There goes Crafton, a flat tire.
Problems with the 80-80. Almost gets into the wall. There must be some issues with that truck.
I believe he's got a flat tire. It looked like he got a little squirrely when he jumped out of the throttle.
Slowing way down. It looks as though the left side tires are up. The right front tire looks up. Maybe that right rear.
Judging from the way it acted, it has to be a right rear tire. Look at Skinner. He's gotten the lead from Colin Brown down in turn 3. But here comes that inside line. A big push from Eric Almirola is going to give Brown the lead back.
Mike Skinner may have been able to pull down in front of Colin Brown, but he wasn't going to leave his wingman. Kyle Busch helped him get there. He stayed out there right in the outside line.
Boy, you have to really trust exactly what that guy behind you is doing. Right now, Mike Skinner's whole race, his whole day is in the hands of Kyle Busch. How hard will Kyle push me, and will he make sure he pushes me properly?
Sure enough, right rear tire down on the 88 of Matt Crafton. Right.
And he's going to come to the pits here, Rick, to put right side tires on this thing. But while he sits here and they get that action done, it's very likely that the field will roll by him through the tri-oval here. The guys go, they're going to do just 2 tires for him. Not very likely that he can get back out of the pits before the field goes by. Work is done. Here goes Crafton. Will he make it out? Yes, he's going to beat the field and stay on the tail end of that lap.
Well, they're going to have a head of steam, though, when they get there. He may go back a lap down, but he'll be in a great position for that Aaron's lucky dog if he does get down a lap.
Yeah, he'll be the only truck that's 1 lap down. Norm Benning is now 3 laps down to the field. So Matt Crafton will be, as you mentioned, the first truck that will be eligible for that lucky dog from Aaron's. How about Colin Brown pulling that inside line back out to the front?
Well, they're 3 and 4 wide getting around the 88 of Matt Crafton as he comes back to the racetrack. Let's see if we can take a look at back what happened to Matt Crafton. Look right of your screen. You see him wiggle right there. He felt that right rear tire go down, moves up way out of the way, does a great job of not causing anybody else any problems.
And plus, there was just enough racetrack for him not to hit that outside wall. The thing gets squirrely with him. He tries to hang on to it and then makes up his mind that something's bad wrong.
That outside line works its way very high through the tri-oval and then comes back down as they cross the start-finish line. It was Colin Brown just behind Mike Skinner by 1/1000th of a second. So Mike Skinner leads that lap here at Talladega.
How about Ron Hornaday? Has he led a lap?
No, but Todd Bodine hadn't won yet either. I'm saying neither one. I'm saying both those streaks end today. Ron Hornaday will lead this race, and I just can't see how Todd Bodine could be fortunate enough to win 5 of these in a row. Could you imagine?
He's in a great position right now. Obviously has a great truck. Just riding along here. Look, they have a lap truck. They're going to have to move up the racetrack to get around this lap truck.
We've got a smoker down on the infield.
Tough break, Jason White.
Jason White in the 23. Looks like the motor's expired for him. We're also seeing Mike Wallace in that white number 48 getting passed on the inside.
Mike's going to try to jump in the tail end of this lead pack.
Yeah, he's now the first truck a lap down. He would get the Aaron's lucky dog if Crafton doesn't get to him soon. Be a tough break for Matt Crafton.
The field working its way down the back stretch. Adam Alexander.
It's been interesting listening to you guys and the observations you're making upstairs about the low lane versus the high lane. Kyle Busch hearing from the spotter stand, the low lane is the way to go. And Colin Brown, the leader who has that pack in tow on the bottom side of the racetrack, is hearing the same thing from both his spotter and crew chief on the stand. They said you are right where you need to be. The low line is the fast one as of now. Krista?
Wait, not so fast, Adam. Brian Scott thinks the outside is the place to be, and so does his team. They are pumping their fists in the air every time Brian Scott goes by. He's currently the 3rd truck in that outside lane. He is sticking on the tail of Kyle Busch. Brian Scott, only 1 race here at this track, but it was a top 10. He finished 7th. And remember, he is not just chasing a win. He is chasing Todd Bodine in the points. He is only 10 points out of 4th.
Thank you, Krista. I tell you, you guys, obviously, right now, we've got Mike Skinner and Kyle Busch. They have pulled out in front of Colin Brown. I'm sure they're going to be bringing their trucks down as they do right now to the bottom line. They will take over the top 2 spots. But we see these trucks moving around this racetrack, and they're very close, and yet it is so difficult to explain how much of a technique this is to run so close to each other, but still you've got to ride the brakes, and at the same time you got to look behind, you got to look forward. There's so many things going on.
There's 100 things going on, Rick, and you're exactly right. And so every second mentally it's just taxing. You're trying to make sure you're looking every which way, and you can't look every which way. So the drivers right now, this is as tense as it'll be all year long. Whether you're Mike Skinner leading the race or Kyle Busch in second, all the way back to the guys at the back of this pack, everybody is just wide open, flat out mentally right now, trying to figure out what to do next.
And that's why this race is so mentally exhausting, way more than physically exhausting. But watch Andy Lally. What a nice run up through the middle of the racetrack he has.
Look at Johnny Sauter. He said, how'd you do that? I'm gonna try. That worked out pretty good. Andy Lally probably qualified a couple of seconds off the pole. You know, he qualified in the back in a truck that didn't have all the speed it needed. But now look at him. He looked like Superman charging through the middle.
How about these Copart trucks lining up on the middle of the racetrack, trying to put that 6th truck behind them on the outside?
Now they're running close to 185, 90 miles an hour. Do you see them wiggling around? This isn't just a free ticket. You've got to drive your rear end off, and Todd Bodine's going to inch toward the front of this pack with Ron Hornaday pushing him.
Here comes that second line, and now to the way outside goes the 6 of Colin Brown in the Conway Freight Ford F-150. Adam Alexander.
It is so interesting when you look at rivalries and then how they play out on a restrictor plate track or a super speedway for the Truck Series. Todd Bodine and Ron Hornaday over the years have had their run-ins, but when I asked Bodine in the garage this morning, who do you draft best with, he said without hesitation, Ron Hornaday. And here they are hooked up together, bringing the outside lane to the front through the tri-oval.
And just one slight miscalculation by one of these drivers who's pushing another. Look at Ron Hornaday right on the back of Tom Bodine down in the center of the corner. One slight miscalculation, just off center a little bit with your push, and you're going to turn a truck around right in the middle of the pack.
And look right now, about fourth in line, maybe fifth in line on that outside line is a 6 of Colin Brown. That's why you never know what's going to happen at the end of the race, because Colin was dominating this race. Everybody content to ride along behind him, and then the outside line came. He got shuffled out, and here he is now trying to stay in the top 10.
Mike Skinner again leading the field down on the bottom of the racetrack. The 51 of Kyle Busch just behind him. Todd Bodine and Ron Hornaday are on the outside. We still see that 15 of Eric Almirola right in the top 5. He's third back on the inside line.
Check out Mario Goslin. He's up inside the top 10 in his truck.
How about right behind Colin Brown, that 53 truck? Justin Hobgood, his second start of the year, up here in the lead draft, racing well.
Max Pappas also in the number 9. He's in the top 10, running well on the bottom of the racetrack.
This is just hard to expect that they can run this close and this tight all day long and not have somebody make a mistake. It's just almost humanly impossible to ask all these guys to be perfect this whole race.
And remember, you told Rick how the bumpers really don't line up. You really have to know what you're doing to push somebody here without getting them squirrely.
Wayne Auton has come on the radio to a few different teams and said, guys, cool it out there. One of those in particular, the 33 and the 30, saying you can't run nose to tail bumping all the way around this racetrack. It's too dangerous.
Had a lead change by 1/100th of a second. Todd Bodine edge out in front of Mike Skinner. Skinner now has a lead back. We've probably had a dozen lead changes at the start-finish line, and maybe about 50 more the rest of the way around the track, huh, Phil?
Ron Hornaday's in a good spot to maybe get that first lap led here at Talladega Superspeedway. Right now running second right behind Todd Bodine in that outside line. That doesn't mean he's second in the race. He's just second line right now.
And again, officially, NASCAR calls a lead change when it takes place at the start-finish line. We've had 7 lead changes between 5 different drivers, and we're hearing now that it's a hood flap that has come off the right front of that 33 of Ron Hornaday.
The cowl flap. There's actually a cowl flap on each side of that of the hood of that truck. Let's see if we can take a look back at how that thing went. While you're looking at the right side of your screen, watch the front of that 33 truck.
In order for that flap to pop up, you have to have negative air pressure right there at the hood, and he's got all of his air off of his hood. He's right on Todd Bodine. Watch it open when he hits Todd.
Yeah. And then it closed when he moved back away from him.
And then he's second back in that middle line, and there it goes. Flies off of the truck.
Now they could black flag him and ask him to come in and put another flap on that truck.
Yeah. Take a look
Watch
on board.
When you're right on someone, your flap's open.
And there it goes. It's just held on really with a very, very small aluminum bracket, a hinged bracket.
You're supposed to have a spring that holds it down as well. The spring keeps it from flapping back and forth unnecessarily, and the spring either came undone or didn't do its job, one or the other.
There's so much air and wind that buffets off of these trucks, and we saw how it was able to pull a piece of metal off of the 33. Well, that also leaves a piece of debris on the racetrack, and that is why we are under the third caution. It is debris on the racetrack. That is the hood flap from Ron Hornaday's truck. Oh, the Albertsons number 16 of Brian Scott just ran over that piece of metal.
Well, the good news is that's just a piece of aluminum. That will not affect him. I don't even think that could cut a tire down. But I'm not sure if NASCAR won't make Ron Hornaday's team put another cowl flap on, and they may not be prepared to do that. That's not something that you would automatically have a spare of.
And when you put it on, it has to be functional. You can't just tape one on there because it has to operate so that if the truck spins, the flap opens, keeps the truck on the ground.
They may have sent somebody back to the truck, to the backup truck, to get one of those off of there, and then they will try to rig some sort of a bracket to attach that to that truck.
Aerodynamics are so important at these racetracks. Now, a lot of times, if there's an accident, something happens, we see the Bondo or the Barabon going on a car or a truck. Is this a situation? Is it required to have that flap?
Yes.
So he will have to have that flap put back on. And that's why the NASCAR
is working with them there. And you can't just tape it over. It has to be functional. Now, if you have damage and your truck's not up to speed, they'll let you pretty much tape it up where it'll go run. But when you're competitive and racing for a win, you have to stay within the rules. You have to have all the aerodynamic devices that are that are on the truck for safety purposes working.
You know, one thing we have to remember now, the reason for that cowl flap is to let air out from underneath the hood of that truck if that truck was to get sideways. With that open now, NASCAR may determine that is functioning. That's really a disadvantage for them, that the fact that there's no hinged piece right there now. So NASCAR may say, hey, if you're okay with it, we're okay with it, because right now it will do what it's designed to do and let air out from under the truck.
And that's a disadvantage for Ron Hornaday?
It will be a disadvantage, a less aerodynamic front end for that truck than it would be.
But the problem would be if Rick Wren said, we're just going to come in and tape that hole up, and NASCAR would have a problem with that.
And we see Rick Wren continuing to talk to not only the team, but he was talking to the NASCAR officials.
They're making a plan.
In the big picture here, Ron Hornaday comes into this race with a 224-point lead. There are currently 6 trucks that are off the racetrack. Jason White, Murphy, Brendan Nupp, Robert Richardson,
We just got the okay
TJ
to cover
Bell, and Jennifer Jo
the
Cobb. And we
fuel
just
stop. Okay,
heard
guys, this is
we
4
can
tires,
just
4
cover
tires
it.
only. Trucks are coming off 4.
And now they're saying they can't cover it.
I don't see how they could let them cover it.
But again, 6 trucks are off of the racetrack. Norm Benning's 3 laps down. Matt Crafton is still a lap down. Steve Park a lap down. Mike Wallace was a lap down. But now we're going to have an Aaron's lucky dog because of this caution.
We're getting a report that NASCAR has told them that they can leave it like it is. They cannot just cover it and not have it functional.
Let's go down to pit road. Chris DeVota.
Brian Scott is in the first pit stall. He said, yes, he did run over that piece of aluminum, but it was laying flat, hit it with his right side, and that is why this team decided to call the audible. They said they were only going to do right side tires. You see crewman under the fender. Everything is clear. Right side tires only for Brian Scott. Adam.
Chris, I'll grab it because Mike Skinner is getting 4 tires also. In my end of pit road, it'll be a classic double dip. Tires now and fuel later. Now at Adam.
Middle of your screen, Kyle Busch getting his left side tires. That completes a 4-tire stop. Top of 9, pulling away bottom of your screen, gets turned around. He will lose a ton of track position. Brian Scott, the first off pit road.
Todd Bodine came out of his pit stall, and again, there is some wet pavement down there. Todd Bodine getting on the gas, spun all the way around. There was no contact, but he got turned around. Now he comes back out on the racetrack. Again, 4-time winner at the Super Speedways, 4 in a row.
He just said he spun out in the wet.
Yeah, he almost spun out again, trying to get back on the racetrack, Adam.
And I think you heard on our air, the radio from the team, the plan is to come back and get another set of tires, fearing that when Todd pulled away and spun around, he flat spotted the ones they had just put on. You almost have to be perfect to win one of these races. Todd Bodine knows how critical that is, having so much success. He's going to have to rally back from some adversity here. They will come back for tires and then come back a 3rd time to fuel the truck, and we will see all these guys come back down pit road here to get fuel. That will happen at lap 41.
Michael, I believe I would leave those tires on there.
Those tires are fine. Hello.
So the only time that you flat spot tires is when you lock them up, because he wasn't going fast enough to just slide sideways and flat spot them.
Well, when the tires are brand new, they're very slippery anyway, so it's not going to hurt anything.
And we could see we never saw those tires stop turning either. I don't believe I would change tires if I was them.
For precaution, they can change them, then they can put them.
They can also put those back on if they need to.
But you know, we heard Adam talking about you have to be perfect to win one of these things. If you're going to make a mistake, you better make it in the first half. And get your then put together a perfect race from there on out. You can get a mulligan or 2 if it just amounts to what Todd just did. He can still win this darn race.